Right now, somewhere in Texas, a horse is standing in a field doing absolutely nothing useful. And that is absolutely insane because 200 years ago, that horse's ancestors were the most important living things on the entire North American continent. Without the horse, the Roman Empire stays small. The Mongols never conquer Asia. America never gets settled the way it did. And the cowboy simply doesn't exist. This is the story of the horse. And it begins not with cowboys or knights or warriors. It begins with humans eating them. For most of human history, the horse was not a companion. It was a meal. So how did the most hunted animal in prehistoric Europe become the engine of every great empire in human history? That answer starts 6,000 years ago on one of the most miserable pieces of land on Earth. The Eurasian Steppe, flat, cold, windy, no trees, no shelter, just endless grass stretching in every direction as far as you could possibly walk. Winters here were brutal. Think of the coldest day you've ever felt. Now, subtract 30 degrees and remove your house. The tribes living here were small, maybe 30 to 50 people per group. They moved constantly, following herds of deer, bison, and mammoth. Life expectancy was maybe 35 years old, if you were lucky. And roaming across the same landscape were massive herds of wild horses. Not the gentle riding horses you're picturing. Wild horses. Mean, powerful, fast. A single kick from one could shatter your leg instantly. But horses were also incredibly nutritious. Horse meat is rich and fatty, exactly what you need to survive a steppe winter. So for thousands of years, humans looked at horses and thought one thing: dinner. Then around 3500 BC in what is now Kazakhstan, something changed. A group of people called the Botai did something nobody had ever done before. Instead of hunting horses, they started keeping them. How do we know? Scientists found ancient clay pots at Botai sites with traces of mare's milk inside. Someone had gotten close enough to a wild horse to milk it. Think about how crazy that is. Wild horses flee from unfamiliar smells. They panic at sudden movement. Getting close enough to touch one required weeks, maybe months of patient, terrifying work. And getting kicked in the process was basically guaranteed. And then, at some point, someone had the most dangerous idea in human history. What if I sat on it? Nobody knows who actually did it first. History didn't record their name. But whoever that person was, they changed everything. Because the moment you're on a horse's back, everything about your world transforms. On foot, you can walk maybe 20 miles a day if you push yourself hard. On horseback, 50 miles. Easy. You could carry more supplies, scout more terrain, find better hunting grounds, react to danger faster, visit neighboring tribes, trade more goods. The tribes that learned to ride first gained an advantage so enormous it was almost unfair. Within a few generations, horse-riding tribes dominated the steppe. The ones who couldn't ride were simply left behind. And then someone made it even worse. They put a weapon in the rider's hands. Before cavalry, warfare was simple and slow. Two groups of men walked toward each other and hit each other with things. Battles lasted hours. Everyone could see everyone else coming. Cavalry changed that instantly. Suddenly, an army could appear from behind a hill, cross a battlefield in seconds, and destroy an enemy formation before they could even raise their shields. The psychological impact was devastating. Historians believe many ancient soldiers who saw cavalry for the first time genuinely didn't understand what they were looking at. A man fused to a giant animal, moving at impossible speed. This might be where centaur myths came from. But no civilization weaponized the horse more completely than the Mongols. And what they did with it is still one of the most stunning military achievements in all of human history. Genghis Khan's Mongols conquered more land in 25 years than Rome did in 400 years. Their empire stretched from Korea to Hungary, an area 4 times the size of the entire United States. Mongol children learned to ride before they could walk properly. By age 5, they were shooting arrows on horseback. An adult warrior could fire 10 accurate arrows per minute at full gallop. 10 per minute. They could hang off the side of a galloping horse and shoot from beneath its neck, using the horse's own body as a moving shield, while at full speed. Officers who witnessed this called it physically impossible, then watched them do it again. They didn't just use horses to fight, they lived on them, slept on them, ate on them, drank fermented mare's milk from a pouch while riding. A Mongol warrior and his horse were essentially one organism. But here's the plot twist that almost no American learns in school. Horses didn't come from Asia or Europe. They came from here, from America. The very first horses on Earth evolved in North America roughly 4 million years ago. They were small, closer to a large dog in size. but they were horses. Over millions of years, some crossed into Asia over the Bering Land Bridge. They spread across Eurasia, grew bigger, got faster, became the animals that would eventually carry empires. But back in North America, around 10,000 years ago, the original horses went completely extinct. Every single one, gone. The continent that invented the horse lost it entirely. For 10,000 years, the Americas had no horses. Zero. Native American tribes built entire civilizations without them, using dogs to carry loads, hunting bison on foot across the Great Plains. Then in 1519, a Spanish explorer named Hernán Cortés landed in Mexico. He brought soldiers, weapons, diseases, and 16 horses. The Aztecs had never seen a horse before in their lives, not once. Some accounts say they believed the horse and rider were a single creature, a god. Within decades, horses escaped, were traded, and spread rapidly across North America. And when the Native American tribes of the Great Plains finally got their hands on horses, something extraordinary happened. Tribes that had walked the Great Plains for centuries transformed almost overnight. The Comanche, the Lakota, the Cheyenne, they took to horses with extraordinary natural ability. Within one generation, they became some of the greatest horsemen in world history. The Comanche in particular became so skilled that European cavalry officers, professional soldiers who had trained their entire lives, described watching Comanche riders and calling the techniques physically impossible. They could hang off the side of a galloping horse, their entire body hidden, firing arrows from beneath the horse's neck. A full-grown adult, at full speed, using the animal as a living shield. The Comanche built what historians literally call the Comanche Empire, controlling territory larger than the entire eastern United States. For 150 years, they dominated the southern Great Plains absolutely. The U.S. Army spent nearly 40 years trying to defeat the Comanche. They kept losing. You cannot outfight someone on horseback if they're simply better riders than you. The Comanche were finally defeated not by better soldiers, but by the deliberate destruction of the bison. The U.S. government understood that without the bison, the horse-based civilization of the plains could not survive. Within 2 decades, millions of bison were reduced to fewer than 1,000 animals. And with the bison gone, everything else collapsed. But even as the Great Plains civilizations ended, horses were everywhere across America now, and a new culture was building itself entirely around them. The American cowboy is one of the most powerful cultural symbols in the world. Movies, music, fashion, politics, cowboy imagery shows up everywhere. But people forget. The cowboy is completely impossible without the horse. Cowboys drove enormous cattle herds across Texas and Kansas. A single cowboy on horseback could manage hundreds of cattle that would take dozens of people to control on foot. The entire beef industry of America was built on horseback. The Pony Express covered 1,900 miles from Missouri to California in just 10 days, using horses. Before trains, before telegraphs reached everywhere, horses were the internet of their day. During the Civil War, both sides depended utterly on horses, not just for cavalry charges, but for moving supplies, pulling artillery, delivering messages, scouting enemy positions. The army with more horses had an enormous advantage. In 1900, there were 21 million horses in the United States, 1 for every 4 people. They plowed the farms that fed the nation. They built the cities. They literally made America possible. Then, in 1908, Henry Ford introduced the Model T, and in less than 20 years, the most important animal in American history became optional. By 1960, America's horse population had dropped from 21 million to under 3 million. Not because we killed them, not because they failed us, but because we replaced them with machines. In a single generation, an animal that had been essential to every human civilization for 6,000 years was suddenly a hobby. And yet, horses are still here, over 7 million of them in America alone, not because we need them, but because something deeper is happening. Scientists have discovered that when humans spend time with horses, stress hormones drop measurably. Heart rates synchronize. There is something happening neurologically between humans and horses that researchers are only beginning to understand. Veterans with PTSD have found more healing through a few hours with horses than from months of other treatments. Children with disabilities have made breakthroughs in therapy sessions on horseback that nothing else could achieve. Out in Wyoming, Nevada, and Montana, wild Mustangs still run on federal land, descendants of those 16 Spanish horses that arrived in 1519. Their ancestors crossed the Bering Land Bridge, survived in Eurasia for thousands of years, came back to the continent that made them, and never stopped running. There are roughly 7 billion humans on Earth right now. Most of us will never ride a horse. Most of us will never need to. And yet, every single one of us is alive today, partly because of what horses did for our ancestors. 6,000 years ago, on a cold, flat grassland in Kazakhstan, a human walked up to the most dangerous animal they knew, got kicked, got back up, tried again. That stubbornness, that refusal to give up on an animal that kept trying to kill them, gave humanity the horse, and the horse gave humanity the world. Tonight, somewhere in America, a wild horse is standing in the dark on a ridge, watching the lights of a city in the distance. That city exists in part because of what that horse's ancestors carried across history. The horse never knew it was building civilization, it was just running. But now you do.